Life is crazy, bro. It's full of a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of experiences. And we go through these as humans. Sometimes it determines our fate, who we are, what we think, what we do. You know, as my consciousness grows, I'm starting to disassociate from my ego. I'm starting to leave human life behind. I no longer have regular urges. I still get horny on day 159, but I don't be craving sex like that no more. I mean, if I see a pair of titties, if I see a fat ass, a bitch touch me, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I see a sex scene on TV, but as far as like a juicy ass goes and big titties, I don't really be staring like that no more, man. When I be getting hard, G, I'm good. I'm gonna just say that without getting too descriptive. I'm good. When I started this, man, it was just hard for me to deal with current traumas and finances and women. Those were like my main things. As I grew, as I started to gain more days and started to get more committed to my semen retention path, I started to really like concentrate on deeper things, man. At day 160, after everything I've gone through in my life, back in 2016 when I first started, when I learned Yahuwah's real name, when I learned God's real name is Yahuwah, when I began to understand I was an Israelite, we live in a satanic world, the world is a matrix, all the way back when I was 15 years old. So this is damn near 5 years of me learning and growing. And at this point right now, I'm finally breaking past trauma. Deep past trauma that I've held on to, man. This last week, I've been getting rid of all my shit. All of it. It was so deep. The whole week, like how I used to cope with shit, I used to be heavy into drugs. So every time I would get down, I would pop a pill, I would drink something, I would smoke something, I would inhale something, I would do whatever it was to numb me, sleep, masturbate. None of that shit, I didn't want none of it. When I was going through this thing this last week, I didn't want none of that shit. I didn't want to be sedated. When I got high, I just thought about it. When I've had a sip or two of alcohol this week, and I got tipsy, I still thought about it. Nothing could get it out of my head. I had to atone for sins that I couldn't forgive myself for. Things that I kept way buried in the vault. I began to forgive myself for becoming an addict. I forgave myself for that a while ago. I forgave myself for being in the streets. I forgave myself for doing things to harm me. For me flunking school. For me going to jail. For me breaking hearts. For me passing diseases to bitches and not telling them. I forgave myself for my sins. I never forgave myself for what I did to others. I never forgave how the addiction hurt my family. I never really realized how my addiction hurt my family. How what I did, everything that I did, hurt them. It hurt their faith in me. It hurt their trust. And I always just thought, oh, they're assholes. And I was the victim. Until I realized that I hurt people just as bad as I was hurting. And I had to experience that. A lot of our powers are coming way sooner than in December. It's October and I'm picking up prophetic abilities, man. I'm feeling other people's pain like I've been talking about. And I'm feeling it to the extent of me being like, I'm in a meditative state. I close my eyes and I'm that person. And I'm going through what they're going through and shit. I'm feeling it to that degree. And I was feeling the sins I committed and how they hurt other people. Like some deep, like, afterlife shit. I experienced it. And while I was going through this the last few days, it was harming me physically. It was something that was so hard for me to break that I never really thought about. You know what I'm saying? It was harming me physically. I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't able to sleep for this last week. I wasn't drinking water. It's hard for me to work out. I lost almost 10 pounds, dog. It's like I went through grief, like somebody died. This is just all atonement. This was me seeing my family for who they really are, seeing their pain, seeing their trauma. This is me going in other people's minds, right? I'm seeing it how they saw it. This thing broke me down. It broke me down to like a shell of a man. I had never felt so weak from something that I didn't do. I was happy until this was brought to me. You know what I'm saying? These issues, these mental illnesses, the poverty, all the pain that me and my family experienced in childhood. I'm seeing how they dealt with it versus how I dealt with it, and how when I dealt with it, it hurt them. I'm seeing how all this was connected, and that the rebirth of me means the rebirth of others, because we share the same bloodline. You see what I'm saying? Realizing this broke me down. That's why I asked for help. I was so deep in this spiritual submission. I felt like I wasn't in control, man. I felt like the Most High had taken me. He took me through this journey, not to hurt me, but to have me learn and to change my perspective. I feel like I've grown more in this week than I have in the last year. The last 6 months I've been on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? It made me a different man. And when I asked for help, I spent 3 hours in prayer and meditation and in self-reflection today. The most I have ever done in my life. And I really thought, I really prayed, I really breathed, I really inhaled the word, I really read the Bible. You know? I really wanted to understand the root of all these problems, of my trauma, of others' trauma. How do I heal it? And then, after days of searching and learning and understanding concepts, he came to me and he said, "You passed the test." He put me in this place so I would pass the test. And this test he gave me was very tremendous. And I learned some dark secrets about my family that fuck with me. These are things that I would have never learned had they not came to me. You know what I'm saying? So they came to me and they told me, and it just changed my perspective. It didn't really change how I viewed them. It gave me more respect for the situation and how they dealt with it. How they dealt with my situation, how they dealt with their life. You know, it gave me admiration and helped me feel a deeper sense of community. And with that, I saw Jesus Christ. I saw Yahusha, Yahshua. I could not make out his face, but he had dreadlocks. He was melanated. You know, he was like a Charlemagne type of melanation. Like not dark skin, but like dark brown, I would say. Couldn't see his face, but it appeared to me in the form of white Jesus, and white Jesus appeared in like a nigga form. You know, he came to me, he hugged me, he lifted my chin up, and he said, "I'm coming soon. Everything will be okay." And then he hugged me, and then like thousands of angels hugged me, and everything was okay. And I was told to release this as well as other traumas that I have so that I may grow. Because I realized that money doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel better. But that's not what makes me happy. I love my family to death more than anything in this world. But that's not what caps off my happiness. I realized that me being the best man I can be is the only thing that's going to give me happiness. Me making others happy, me helping people achieve their dreams, me changing lives, me making music that people can hear, reflect upon, think about, me creating content, me changing in a new direction. As these motherfucking trees, as they begin to rot and wither away their leaves and they start anew, I feel that rebirth. I feel the same thing. I feel life changing for me and for others around me. I see people waking up into their spiritual enlightenment. I'm seeing where their future is going to be. I'm seeing the extent of their power. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking more and more deeply than I ever have in my life. The last time I felt this amount of sorrow and depression, which once again was not of my own accord, nothing happened to me. I took on emotions from other people. And I saw things from a different perspective. The last time I felt this was in my worst heartbreak story. When I put that on here, that was the amount of depression I felt. Where I just was lonely, where like, this is when I was on drugs too, but like weed, alcohol. This is back when I was beating my dick too. And none of that shit helped me. Nothing could help me. I just felt this numbness, aloneness, depression, insecurity. I would just crawl up in a ball and just think about life. You know, it would just be times where I had sad music on replay. I couldn't even listen to music this last week. You know what I'm saying? I tend to just deal with things alone. When I was around the family, especially, that I learned their secrets and shit, and I learned their philosophy, how they've been dealing with things, I helped them the best way I can, but they didn't know that they were hurting me too. They didn't know how I felt about it. They just saw that I cared. You know what I'm saying? That's something that I tell young men. You know what I'm saying? I tell them, like, there's nothing wrong with crying. Crying is a very natural thing. Like, we all do it. You just don't cry in front of people. You know you're not supposed to cry in front of other men, but most definitely not in front of a woman. The only times it's something serious. But when you go through things, who am I to tell you that shouldn't bother you like that? This changed my mind on how I look at things, how I look at people. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing research because I've been getting a lot of intuition, and I've been trying to understand homosexuality. I've been trying to understand sexuality in itself. Realizing that sexual energy is the energy that gives us the drive, the creativity, the intellect. Holding your seed gives you everything you need. When your sexual energy is fucked up, you are fucked up. When your chakras aren't in line, you're fucked up. You see what I'm saying? You are the maker of your reality, of how you feel about things. You create problems, or you create solutions. You know what I'm saying? Sexuality It's how you feel about yourself on the inside. The type of shit you beat your dick to, the type of people you fuck, that's how you feel about yourself. You know, the fetishes are even a deeper psychological thing. Fetishes are a deeper reflection of how you feel about yourself. And it's something that you can't tame. Like, you don't know why I like this shit. It's something that happened to you that makes you want to react that way. You see what I'm saying? When you grasp that, life becomes less problematic. You see what I'm saying? So, homosexuality in itself is insecurity, because a lot of them say I'm gay, but they don't accept what they do. They love who they love, they have sex with who they have sex with, but it's not really love. Love doesn't exist. As far as man and woman, man and man, and woman and woman, it doesn't exist, period. The only love you can have is put your seatbelt on. Is I want to see you succeed. Genuine love is respect. Why do you think in the Bible he calls us friends and not slaves? Because he has respect enough to not command us to do this, to do that, to chop down trees, to not chop down trees. We have the free will to make decisions. So we're looked at as friends, not equals, otherwise we be gods. We are a reflection of God, but we are not God himself. He looks at us as friends because friendship is more important. It's more freedom in it, right? You experience love by respecting the Lord, his will, his wishes, his commandments. That's love. When you love him, you love yourself. These people who don't love themselves get into things like that. You know what I'm saying? All in all, homosexuality isn't a bad thing as far as you having sex. Oh well, it's a spiritual problem because it's not correct. There's nothing that you gain from that. You know what I'm saying? You can't have kids from it. And the main purpose of releasing your seed and having sex is to recreate. We're not meant to just fuck like that. You know what I'm saying? Not to disrespect people, because that's why I said it's not bad, because that doesn't mean you're going to hell because you fuck somebody. It's just not the path you're supposed to be on. Why do you think people are so afraid of homosexuality, afraid of how people will perceive them? People will, how they feel about themselves, because it doesn't fucking matter how people perceive you, because they throw parades and do this and do that for people to accept them. Why do you want to be accepted? Build your own shit. Why don't you, you have the gay community, why don't you have gay businesses? And it doesn't have to be focused on your sexuality. Just be people. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with women. I don't get why you don't build your own. Black people, we tried to build our own. They burned our shit, but we will keep trying. You feel me? So to wrap this shit up, man. Life is about choices. Life is about growth. You don't grow and shit like that. Cross this real quick. You don't grow and shit like that. You don't grow when you're stuck in your problems, when you're stuck in past behavior, when you don't want to change, when you accept life, when you let it kick you down and keep kicking you down until you say, I like it. I'm comfortable, and you know that's a lie. You gotta find your personal strength. You gotta find your personal power so that you aren't left behind. He's damning people for a lot more than just killing and raping. If you don't believe in God, you might as well be dead. To not believe at all, to say, I'm good, it's the loneliest thing in the world. I've been there before. We can't win without that. We can't win without self, acceptance of self. In order to grow, You have to sacrifice and let things die. What are you willing to let die? I'm out this bitch.